So how was your overall experience in strategy, and how do you find your work during your internship time? Like, was it interesting or it was all about money?
So it's like, everyone says that you need to learn when to say no, right?
Yes.
But I would say when you are beginning or learning curve of your career in the start, you should not say no to things.
Hi guys, welcome on board. I'm your host Himanshi Singh for the podcast today by Skilled Sapiens. And today we have amongst ourselves Mr. Tanmay Nipane, who's the guest for the day and had a great work experience. He's a PPO holder, was a part of Hult Prize and working in a company like EcoWiz in the founder's office and has great experience to share amongst us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Anshi. I mean, this is a great opportunity for me, and I really hope my insights is helpful to someone else, and I can pass on some wisdom to, gain some insightful best career options. So
Sure,
let's
sir.
hope for the
Sure.
best.
Yes. So, first of all, I would like to ask you, I always ask everybody the first question itself, that how you feeling with holding a PPO, one of the rarest thing in your college right now, because the market condition is such that PPO is a big, big thing right now. And how do
Yeah.
you feel holding a PPO in your hand before even ending the whole semester, I guess, yes?
Yeah, I mean, I bagged my PPO when it was July. I mean, just the beginning of our last year.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a moment of relief, I would say, because
Yeah.
in India we have this whole culture of getting into a college and then a job. So one thing is very clear for everyone when they land up in an engineering or even an MBA or any other stream, like any college they get into, the main objective at the end of the day is to get a good job.
Yes.
And once you receive that email of confirmation, so you just feel you have
It's
conquered the world. It's
amazing.
like
Yes.
so I pinged my email on the mailbox and I used to look at it every day. Okay, this is happening in real. This is happening in real. Okay, so it took me a while to process, but yeah, it's a wonderful feeling and a good moment. Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell us that the clubs and committee you were a part of during your college days?
Yeah. In the beginning, I started with Hult Price. So I
Yeah.
was into managing logistics part for the Hult Price. So very
Hmm.
first task which we did was arranging an on-campus event because Hult Price has 3 and 4 levels of entire startup competition. So the very first is the on-campus event, so where I was handling the logistics. And based on the work that we did during that on-campus round, I was also
Yeah.
selected for leading the logistics and operations during along with my partner Navam. So we both were leading operations part for the regional Mumbai summit. So Mumbai summit was something which happened in Mumbai where
Yeah.
almost 20 plus countries participated. The teams from 20 plus countries participated. So that was a great achievement for us to put. I mean, we did excel in that event and we did a great job. So that was one part which I was engaged in. I was also engaged with the consulting club of a college. So not as a someone holding a position, but I was one of the active members in the club. So engaging with students, planning on guesstimates, then case studies, understanding the different concepts of consulting. So that was
Yes.
one thing which peer-to-peer learning, that what we say. So that was one good engaging part which I was involved in.
Okay. So can you share the factors or qualities that you believe contributed to the achievement you had?
Achievement I had in terms of PPO or in terms of
PPO,
the
yes, in
clubs and
PPO.
community?
Yes, in
PPO.
PPO.
Okay. So I would say a person needs to be a go-getter, and
Yes.
that's a must thing in this today's world because you have a tough competition in terms of skill set. I mean,
I
the
know.
skill sets which I possess is something like let's say 10, but there is someone right out there who is having a 20 plus skill sets, right?
Yes.
So in that case, how do you differentiate yourself? What's that USP that you create? And that's more important. And for me, that USP was I was a very proactive worker. So I won't mind calling myself workaholic, but that's a negative word in today's world, I would sense, because everyone thinks of a work-life balance. That's a term that goes on everywhere. But I was a firm believer of karma, so that's what I call myself. And that's the reason I differentiate myself from the other set because I know that I don't possess the exact skill set what a employer requires at that point in time. Maybe 40-50%, yes. 50% I still lack somewhere, but that is something which I can cover up over a period of time.
Yeah.
So that's how I differentiate myself.
Exactly. And what you told, right, go getter. So the moment you start believing, right, that this is the thing I want in my life and I want this anyhow,
Exactly.
whatever happens. So that is the moment of manifestation, and you start thinking that you're there already and you start working in that direction. So when you start working in the direction, I believe that you're already there now. Now you
Yeah,
just have
so
to,
it's right. It's like when I got my first job after engineering, so I was
yeah,
clueless, like what's the job, what's the profile and everything. When I went there, I understood, okay, this is the profile, and then I became a developer. But that
yes,
was something which I thought I didn't think about, that I
yeah,
didn't choose it. It was given to me and I opted for it. But when it came, I mean, the part of EcoVis it turned out. So I had a whole 5 months of time period to understand what's happening in and around in terms of life project and then internship. And based on that, I got an opportunity to grab a very
yeah.
understanding, and I was quite absorbed in that environment. So that
Hmm.
was the reason it's a good thing.
Because the Ecovest was also one of the company in a college which was like offering a good internship offer, like right, a good offer with,
Yes.
along with the life project and the and good amount of money.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
so here the thing goes with the ideology that my MD follows. Like he looked people for a long-term perspective. Because when you do an internship for a 2 months of period, it's a simple project or a part of a
yeah,
project that you work on. But
yeah.
here you get a time to understand the business model of the company, the revenue
Hmm.
generations, the entire know-how about how the company is operating. So that's the
Yes,
reason he wants to invest in an individual and then give him a PPO or him or her a PPO. That's how
yeah.
it goes.
So how was your internship experience as a person with a background in you have done your Hull prize and everything, which was in operations. So you have an inclination towards operations as well. And now coming to the this one, like strategy and all these. So how was your overall experience in strategy, and how do you find your work during your internship time? Like, was it interesting or it was all about money?
No, so yeah, after all, it's all about money. I won't, I mean, deny that fact. But
Yeah.
learning was a major, a primary aspect for me at that point in time
Yes.
because I'm an engineer and have no knowledge about consulting. I mean, I never, had a good client interaction, though it was at an initial level with the developments and everything, but nothing as such where I'm consulting someone. So it was an entirely new landscape for me. So one of the project which was given to me was about the financial restructuring. And
Oh.
now I'm like I can read balance sheets. I could understand some financial terms which I learned during the MBA. But I mean I didn't know how to build up insights on that. How do you consult a company on based on their financial status or based on their
Mm.
finances? So this was something which I had to learn at that point in time. So I could you read watch some YouTube videos or sit with my MD to understand, okay, this is the next step, and then based on that I would gauge how to build up the insights, how to build up the strategic plan based on that.
Mm.
So it was a very new landscape. But yeah, I was I'm a quick learner. I'm nothing to brag about, but that's something which a quality of mine, and I can
You
learn
should
things quickly.
acknowledge that. You should acknowledge that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good acknowledgement, I would say. But that's the reason I didn't find it difficult to understand and
Yeah.
to get absorbed in this landscape. And one of the difficulty which I faced was, I came from a very structured background, working with Mastercard or Atra Infotech in the previous organization, had a hierarchy, everything. But here I was someone who would interact daily with MD. I mean, and the MD's mind is full of multiple ideas and businesses happening in
Yes.
and around.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
need to switch at times. So I'm moving from a pharmaceutical company to a paper manufacturing company. So it was very quite difficult at that point.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then as a consultant, you need to be a 360 person. So
Yes.
this
You
is
have to
something
be
which I learned.
everywhere. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So can you
So
describe
overall,
like
it was great.
specific, yeah, so can you describe
Mhm.
like a specific project or accomplishment during your internship phase, like one project which like made you gain the maximum insight knowledge about the working, how it goes and everything.
Okay, so I think one project which I was working for a company wherein they were under high debt distress. And the first problem statement was to identify why they are in debt, why the revenues are declining, what's the problem. So when we digged out more, then when we went on analysis and everything, so at that point we understood. So the investments that they made in back in past, so that investments were not something which generated their revenue. So if you just put a Pareto analysis, let's say of a 20-80 rule.
Yeah.
So the 20% of input that they gave didn't give them a 80% output. So that was one analysis that I did at the beginning. And based on that, we understood, okay, so that investment impacted their entire, the revenue generation. So it didn't came into existence. The operations didn't go well. The optimization was not done. And by the time their manufacturing unit was installed, the technology was already outdated.
Yeah.
So that was the reason they could not cope up with the revenue. And then they had to, the debt that they have taken to install that plant and everything. So it became more difficult for them to survive in the market. And
Mm.
then we gave them an option to, they can raise funds through multiple sources. I can't go much in detail, but this was the one project which I did, and I
Yeah,
learned
yeah, yeah.
entire, the process of how you consult, how you build up a problem statement, then gain insights, then build up a strategy, and how do you execute it. So that was one thing. I mean, one of the most interesting projects which I worked on.
Even during my internship period, I believe that I've learned most of the things practically. Like on paper,
Mhm.
during a project or assignment, it's not the same as it's performing in real life. Like in real term,
Right.
when you perform things and then you believe, like, okay, now this is something I'm liking and I want to go ahead with it, right? That's the moment you realize that you're going to work here.
Exactly.
So, what are those hints you get from your manager or your team leads? That now I believe that I am on the path of PPO. I'll somewhere I believe that I'll get
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so these are the hints that you definitely get. So one thing is you build up a rapport. I mean, we were like 7 interns working all together, and I had a different rapport with him in terms of understanding, in terms of working, because I was someone who was upfront in the, taking up the task, finishing it off, asking for more work, engaging with multiple work at the same point in time, like different projects. I'm working on let's say, a startup ecosystem wherein I'm understanding the startup part. I'm also engaged with the capital restructuring, capital markets. So this is something which helped me to understand how I can build rapport with him. Another hint that you can get, understand that you are on the verge of getting a PPO would be the conversations that you take. I mean, when you are in a group, you can see someone is having a conversation just about the work. But when you are about to get on a PPO level, and definitely if it is, obviously if it is an MD or a CEO level person, he will try to understand personally as a person how you are. I mean, do you fit their organization in terms of thinking, long-term perspectives, the short-term, long-term goal that we call. So these are all things, these are all conversations that happen, and that gives you a slight hint that okay, I can get a PPO. And after a while, you will definitely have an a direct discussion like, would you like to work with us? So that will be the very evident part.
Hmm. And what do you believe that are the do's and don'ts of for getting a PPO, right? Like you got a PPO, the rest
Mhm.
didn't got. And what were the things
Mhm.
that you did and the others didn't did? And also the things that others did which like backfired them and you didn't. You had a safe space for that. So what were those
Okay.
things?
So sometimes, yeah, definitely you need to be a diplomatic person. But
Yes, I
again,
believe.
I'll be quite honest with the answer here. So it's like, everyone says that you need to learn when to say no, right?
Yes.
But I would say when you are beginning or learning curve of your career in the start, you should not say no to things because I was in a clean blackboard. I have no idea about what's happening, how it's going, the clarity. I was not having any clarity at that point. So I was letting everything in, let it come in, let it come in. And one of the other thing will process in such a way that I'll understand, okay, so this is something which I have to work on, and this is something which I will take up ahead. So there were like, let's say 6 projects. Out of those, I worked on 5, for example. And out of those, only 2 were some projects which I took ahead. The rest I left because I was not able to cope up with them or I was not able to understand. This happened with everyone, not just me. But I never denied the fact that I would work. I mean, if something is given to me, though even I'm not knowing it, whether it's from a pharma background, whether it's from um, um, some tea plantation level. So any industry it might be, though I don't have any expertise, but I learn and I'll get it done. So that was the approach which I followed, and it really helped me.
Yeah, so I believe that when you're in your learning phase, evolving phase, that is the internship phase. And people like sometimes I had one more questions in the same field. So people
Hmm.
like they undertake they underestimate the internship phase. They are like that these are the 2 months. A few people I have a lot of friends in during the phase whom I've seen like taking it for granted, taking those
Yeah,
2 months for granted as a holiday. Like these are the
exactly.
summer internship slash vacation. So what
Yeah,
do you
vacation.
think
Yeah.
that is your perspective on this thing? Like people, are they losing something very big that they can't afford to lose? Because what's your take on this?
I'm definitely they are losing a lot because Himanshi, the thing is, when you join as a fresher or even as an experienced
Yeah,
person in some
yeah.
industry, when you come to MBA, you don't have clarity at that point. I mean,
Hmm.
like 90% of people are 99%, I will say, are clueless, like what they have to do, in
Yeah,
which field they
yeah.
have to get into.
Yes.
And internship is the time wherein you analyze yourself, you understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and then you understand which element of yours will help the organizations, and then you scale that. So that is the period where you have to experiment yourself. But most of the people, I believe, they take things for granted. They focus more about money in that
Hmm.
part, like where I will get more money rather than the skill set which I will gain or a brand name, let's say. So these are a few
Yeah.
aspects. So when you choose a internship, so I would say you definitely go for a learning aspect because those 2 months you won't learn a lot in those 2 months. I mean,
Hmm.
definitely. Let's
Hmm.
say you are getting some XYZ stipend. So
Hmm.
that's there for 2 months, and after that it won't be. So don't think about it as a short-term thing. Think about what you can gain in those 2 months, which will help you to build your career in terms of your final placements or even getting a PPO there.
Yes.
That's one thing one needs to understand. And if they're not, focused in those 2 months, it's going to be a tough job because right now, wherever you go to US, you go to Europe, even in India, the job market is like devastated. When you are not having right set of job, even there are right set of job, there are not right set of skill set present with the people or students who are applying for it. It's quite difficult there, and you need to pull up your socks right now because these 2 months are really crucial. And if you don't work in these 2 months on yourself, it will be you are going to have a tough time.
Yeah, truly, I believe that. Because even I have learned a lot of things during my internship period is that the learnings you gain over here is something that you'll deliver when you'll be sitting in your interview, right? So,
Right.
yeah, because I have seen a lot of people. I would like to ask you from your batch that who have
Mhm.
like made it to a very like small and startup companies in their initials and now are making it to big companies just because of their internship experience. So, what is your say on that?
Yeah, I mean, see, what happens is when you get into a big organization for your internship, I won't take a name of any organization, but I'll just
We know that.
differentiate it based on, yeah, I'll differentiate it based on a big organization and a small startup or a small organization. These are
Yes.
two aspects I will take. Now, what happens is when you get into big companies, they offer you some part of a big project. So it's like there are 100 people working on it, and you are the 100th one in that sense, where you're working only for a 2 month of period, where you don't understand what's the outcome of this, what's the objective of this, where this work of mine will be utilized,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a very short time period, and these projects are very big, like they go for years and months. So you don't understand really, have I added any value to this project or not? But
Hmm.
compared to that, when you are in a startup landscape or even a small company, it's like the entire project has been handed over to you. You are
I
being held
agree.
accountable for that. You get the ownership of that task. And in that place, you make a lot of mistakes. And from there you learn. And unless and until you make that mistake, and unless and until you learn from those, it won't help you. I mean, this internship will be just like you go there, you make some presentations, and you just come back. Those presentations are never utilized or never, taken into account. So that doesn't make any sense because it's not adding value to you, neither to that organization.
Yeah.
So that is one differentiating factor you need to focus when you're choosing a right internship for yourself.
Exactly. So can you share some insights into the selection process for PPO at your in your company? What was the whole process and how did it started? Like how did it started? You already told us, but how was
Mhm.
the process of PPO? Like when were you informed and how long did it took for the offer letter to come? I knew that you were waiting eagerly for that
Yeah.
somewhere.
So, yeah, right. So there was no, a strict followed process for that, but it was based on the one-to-one conversations that
Yeah.
our MD had with each one of us. So that was one level of screening that he had to understand what's our long-term perspective is. Uh, are we understanding the work? Are we finding it relevant? Or are we someone who wants to, build up their career in a startup ecosystem or, become a co-founder or a founder in like 3 or 4 years, next 3 or 4 years, and have their own company. So that was
Mm-hmm.
one aspect that he looked on. Post that, once the screening was done, then there was one more conversation with the people who were on the verge of getting a PPO about, what are your goals, then what are your expectations in terms of monetary
Yeah.
remuneration and everything. So that was one level of question. And post that, the offers were released. So that was one, a small process that they had, but it was very, one-to-one level. So no mass processes or anything. And it took
Oh,
like, so I completed my internship in May 30th was the last working day, 31st. And I think 10th July was the date I received the offer, 10th July or 10th August. I'm not sure. But yeah, somewhere there.
amazing. So, what according to you are the key standouts that a company notices and how you showcase them during the internship, like paving the way for a PPO?
Hmm. Okay. So it's one thing, yeah. Everyone is, looking for work.
Yeah.
If you ask anyone who is in the college right now, who is jobless or anything, everyone say, yeah, I'll work. But there
Mm.
is a thin line difference between I will work and a willingness to work. So when you are given the work, what, how much inputs that you engage into it. What's how much ownership or accountability you take for that work. That matters a lot. And most of the time, it's like everyone is we are very structured as a human
Yeah.
since the beginning of our schooling days. So we are given so subjects, so questionnaires. This is the exam. You have to write 2 lines for 5 mark question. So there's a structure for everything and we focus on only that part. We never deviate from that. We never explore our opportunities, or we never, so one thing it's like we underestimate ourselves a lot. So that's the problem wherein you need to understand, and based on that, you can see, okay, this is something through which I can get a PPO.
Yeah. Even I somewhere believe that I can never like host a podcast or do something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, that's
I
the
was
thing.
Yeah, I was like, I don't have a good voice to like host a podcast, or how will
No,
sound if
you
I'll
are
do it.
doing it so good.
Yeah.
Like
So,
I'm the advocate of it, and I think everyone will agree to that.
okay. So, initially that happens. I believe that when you're given some certain task, that is not something which you have done previously, like I've hosted events and something like that, but podcast is a truly different thing. So, in same
Right.
way, when you're thinking about the PPO, you're not just thinking about one work. It could be anything appointed to you. You can't reject that. You're in your
Exactly.
learning phase, and everything, every work would give one learning to your dictionary that this is something you have learned from this project. So, coming
Right.
back to the next question, like, what advice do you have for the fellow interns right now, your juniors aspiring to convert their internships into PPO?
Uh, I will say, be clear, like what you want. So gain as much clarity that you can. Talk to, your senior people who are working in the organization, your seniors in college itself, who you are comfortable with sharing, like this is the difficulty which I'm facing. How can I move ahead with that? So that's one thing you can do. Talk to your right manager who are, working with. So if you're working in a startup or something, talk to a co-founder or a person who is at a CFO, CTO level. They can help you to build your clarity. So clarity is one aspect that you should focus more on. And other thing I will say, start learning, how to unlearn things. So that will help you a lot because it's quite difficult at a point where you don't. See, we are not, someone who knows everything. Like
Yes.
there are many things that we don't know at that point in time in terms of skill set or in terms of the process flow of any work. So, you need to have that attitude towards a flexible attitude towards those things. And you need to have an open approach because most of the people are very rigid in that case. Like, नहीं मुझे finance ही करना है, मुझे
हाँ, I
marketing ही
agree.
करनी है.
Hmm.
But there you need to, tweak yourself a little and try out the options. Sometimes, because even in that, my case, I want to become a business analyst at some point in time. And
Yeah.
here I'm doing consulting. So it's altogether a different league. And I'm very happy with this. So you need to find your happy place in terms of work, I will say. So that will something
I
which
agree. I
we can
agree for
focus on.
that because like you need to find your happy place as well as you need to like the moment you said no, you need to unlearn things. I
Yeah.
even I remembered one thing that I was I was from a finance background and then I came here and then I am into marketing now and I am loving marketing because this is something I didn't knew that I would love. But now
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good in that and like I know that I can do good in this field and I'm meant for this field now. So somewhere or the other, if I wouldn't have been unlearning the things I've learned before, it wouldn't have been possible for me to even like start my journey over here in marketing. So what do you think that
Okay.
did you use any of your skills or certifications or something that you would recommend other people that gave you a upper hand over the other interns or some other external things other than the work?
Uh, I would say not many certifications because my profile is not about based on a lot of certifications or anything. Whatever skill set I possess right now is what I learned during my course of career. I mean, whether
Hmm.
it's coding or whether it's understanding the tech, understanding the business problems, it's all something which I've learned over the period. I've committed a lot of mistakes at point. I mean, literally dumping a wrong code in a production of a bank to sending a wrong email to a wrong client. So I've done it a lot, and that's how I learn. So
Yeah.
I may not be a right person to answer for this question, like what are the certifications you need to
Yeah.
have. But what I know is more about the scalar certification, which is good for someone who wants to get into data analytics, some business analytics role, because that's what I was looking for. Take some certifications from Google if you want to get into product management. So that's one thing. Look for certification. I mean, if you are getting into finance or anything, definitely you need to have a CA or a CFA level certification. So that's a must thing because that will give you a edge over all the other applicants. Yeah, I mean, that's a certification. Apart from that, have a hobby. I mean, that helps you a lot. Whether it's, painting, drawing, photography, even, reading a book, walking around, anything it could be. But give yourself that leisure where you introspect and retrospect yourself. Because most of the time we are so engaged and engrossed in the work that we forget that you need to, take a break from that work to analyze and then gain some energy and work again. So
Yeah,
that's one
I
thing.
agree. So, this was from the employee's perspective that these are the requirements for a company. So, what do you
Yeah.
think that a few things that a company should have for an employee to think that I want to work here? Like the social culture, not talking about the money because money is something that if a company is offering 18 LP or 24 LP or 30 LP, any employee would run for that. But what
Mm.
are those few things in the environment, in the working environment that makes the employee get attracted towards the PPO that I will work in this organization?
Yeah, again, this is a very subjective question, but for me, it was more about where I feel more inclusive, where I
Yeah,
feel more accountable, and I can take ownership of the work. So that's the culture which I believe in. And Himanshi, it's like culture is something which you build by your
I
presence.
agree.
So with Ecovis, we have two different legs, wherein one part is more about a very well established organization, wherein you have chartered accountants, you have people from finance who are going for audits, legal advisories, those sort of things. Where I'm working, it's more about a startup like where I'm working on a startup ecosystem and everything, where I have to build it from the scratch. I have to, plan on activities and take on multiple initiatives to engage people, to, build the strong team bonding and everything. So this
Yeah.
is some culture which I'm building on. And I would
Hmm.
love an organization where everyone is included, where everyone's opinion is taken into account. So that is one where green flag for me in terms of getting into an organization, and that is some culture organization should have for their employees.
Yeah.
Second most important thing is about the feedback that they get. I mean, I had this experience for my friends wherein they were working with some organization and then they committed some mistake, and the MD or let's say some senior person will yell at them, shout at them about, okay, this is something which you are not supposed to do. This is wrong. You are a dumb person and you don't know this, and you have done MBA for a year and still you don't know this. So, the person who is at a senior most level should not have this attitude. It should be more of a, a constructive or a a growth mindset feedback. Wherein
Yes.
so what happens in my case is whenever I commit a mistake, my MD will call me and he won't say that, Tanmay, this is something which you did wrong. He will tell me, okay, this can be done in this way, and that can give a more precise outcome that we are aiming for.
Agreed. Agreed.
And it's just about building up a perspective. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not about giving a feedback. So that can be the good approach to have a good, a culture build up.
Yes. So, the last question I would like to ask you that what are the things that you would suggest a junior for the
Mhm.
internship process, during the internship process, that they should do, they have to do anyways if they want the PPO?
Uh, I will say don't take break for those 2 months. I mean,
Yeah.
do as much work as you can, engage yourself, network a lot. And network doesn't mean adding up LinkedIn connections. It's more about how you talk with people, what level of talks you do with them. I mean, I'm not saying go on a personal level talks, but uh, go with an innovative mindset, go with a growth mindset when you talk with them. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, so sir, this is something which I have to do, and what can be the roadmap for that? How can I approach these things? This is something which I'm finding difficulty in. How can I, understand this problem and build up a strategy to overcome this? So these are the few conversations that you can have a ample amount of conversations. Like if you're working from 9 to 6, 6 to 8, you just go on a conversation with someone who you find someone, a right person in your organization, and that really helps you a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a big extrovert, a social butterfly, I would say. So I love talking to people. So anytime I find a time, even when I'm moving from one meeting to other in Mumbai. So in Mumbai, it's like you take 1.5 hours to travel from Central to South Mumbai. So that was the time where I used to get interact a lot with my MD. So I would discuss everything about him, about how startup ecosystem is building up in India, what are things happening in US, because he has a good relation with the people in US because of his work and everything. So I used to know what's happening there. Again, I went to Europe, so I know what's happening in and around in Europe. So these were the conversation that we were having, and that really struck both of us to, understand each other's perspective. So I understood what he's aiming for in terms of what he wants from me, and I understood like what are the skill sets or what are the things that I can put on the table so that I can get a PPO and then build up this organization. So that's how the conversation goes on, and then you get into a PPO and that level of conversation. So conversation is a good thing, and networking is something which you need focus on.
Yeah.
And
I truly believe that.
yeah, and never say no at this point, at least for these 2 months. Like, नहीं मत बोल दे, okay sir, मेरे से ये काम नहीं होगा, हो जाएगा. Just give it a try. If it doesn't work, then definitely the other person will help you out. But give it a try. So have that attitude, and I think that will be more enough to get you a PPO or a good job offer in future.
Yeah, surely. I believe that saying no at this point of time, when you have this thing only to work upon in these 2 months, is a stupidity that you would ever do to your life yourself. Because later,
Yeah,
I have seen people from your batch regretting for rejecting the PPO or not being able to get that PPO at the moment when they were like companies, like the condition right now in the market, in the corporate world, is not doing good, right? And at this
right.
point, when you reject a good offer because you think that you might get a good offer later, but you not
Yeah,
getting it right now. So yeah, so you have to, like, I would like to tell, or to all the folks out there, that you need to work on your internships really hard, work hard. Don't take it as a vacation, because it's not a vacation. It's your time of learning, your time to grab the opportunity which you have ever dreamt of, because ultimately it starts from some or the other point only, and this might be the point that your journey is going to start, right? Like
yeah,
Tanmay's journey started the moment he entered into his life project, then made it into an internship, then made it into a PPO, and now working in the company. So it could be you, the next one. standing out there like Tanmay. And thank you so much, Tanmay, for for such an insightful session. It was really great hosting with you and everything. And I hope all the folks out there would have been liking the session and are enlightened by the all the insights that you gave today. A big thank you to all the listeners and all the folks out there. I hope you liked the podcast today. Do subscribe to our channel, Skill Sapiens.